Welcome to the NBA 2K G League show. I am your host, Varun Chari, and welcome to the show. So, on this episode, we're going to be talking about the aftermath of G League Ignite, and we're going to be focusing on the three players, Dink Pate, London Johnson, and Thierry Darlan. First of all, I'm going to just explain Ignite for any of you who don't know what G League Ignite was. I'm saying was because it no longer is a thing. I believe it was around 2020, the G League had decided, with the NBA, they both decided to start a program where high school players, instead of going to the NCAA, or instead of maybe even going overseas, they made a program for high school, top high school players, or just generally like high school players who wanted to play professionally, to go to the G League. It was part of a team called G League Ignite, where it was like NBA veterans who had played in the NBA. They had a coaching staff. I believe they were based in Henderson, Nevada. So it was a program for these, high school players, like some alumni or Jalen Green, Jonathan Kuminga, Dyson Daniels. So there has been some notable guys who have actually played in a G League Ignite who have had some good careers, and it's interesting to see what happened to some of those guys who, weren't eligible to declare for the draft or just weren't ready yet to go into the NBA. We know that Montes Buzelis, Ron Holland, Tyler Smith, those were the three guys drafted in this year's draft from G League Ignite. But, London Johnson, Dink Pate, and Thierry Darlan, those were three guys who, I think Dink Pate actually isn't eligible yet for the NBA draft, he will be after this year, but London Johnson and Thierry Darlan, they were both eligible, but they didn't declare for draft, and I think part of it is probably because they wanted to continue to work on building their draft stock, and so they were in the G League draft this past year. London Johnson went to the Maine Celtics, Thierry Darlan went to the Rip City Remix. I feel like there was probably some ties with Pooh Jeter. He was part of G League Ignite, and then is now like the GM for the Rip City Remix. So yeah, I think there was probably some ties there, but I want to kind of talk about each of his players in this video and kind of talk about like where they are in their seasons and kind of what their situation is and what maybe to expect kind of moving forward with all three. So getting into the first player of this video, let's talk about Dink Pate. So Dink Pate is actually a potential lottery pick in this year's NBA draft. And this is a draft that has Cooper Flagg, Ace Bailey, and Dylan Harper. Dink Pate was, I believe, 17 last year. So he wasn't eligible for this year's NBA draft and for 2024. But he started, I believe, in January of last year. And so he signed with the Mexico City Capitanes, and there's something notable about why specifically the Capitanes. And so Mexico City does not have an NBA affiliate, meaning they do not have to worry about two-way contract players, nor do they have to worry about assignment players. So that automatically opens up minutes for guys like Dink Pate. And so it's a really good situation, especially for him. He does not really have to worry about playing time, ever like having to compete with anybody. And it was a good situation. Smart move, probably by his agency and him to go there. And I think it's something I think is interesting is having a team like the Capitanes. It does make me wonder in this post G League Ignite world that we're now living in, can we start to see more high school players go to like the Mexico City Capitanes, similar to Dink Pate? It does, give these guys a good spot because, again, they're not competing against any two-way or assignment players, and it's just a great situation. So that is something I'm actually more curious to see if we're going to see that trend moving forward. I think it'd be awesome if we continue to see some more G League teams as the G League kind of continues to move on that might not even be affiliated with an NBA team. I probably will top us in a later video down the line, but I'd love to see if Vancouver gets a team, because you can get some top Canadian players too that might even maybe they'll go to Vancouver, like just throwing that out there. But to see Dink Pate go to the Capitanes, I mean, he's been having a really good year this year. With the Capitanes this year, he's been averaging 10 points, 1.1 steals, 3.8 rebounds, 1.1 assists, while shooting about 33% from three. So, yeah, and he's playing about 20 minutes. So, the potential's there, and I do think, he's also having to split minutes with guys like touches in terms of, Trey Burke, Luis King, Juan Toscano Anderson. So obviously, he's not always going to be the one getting the ball in his hands like all the time with the Capitanes, but it is encouraging to at least see that. And I think one thing that he was trying to improve on, from Gleague Ignite last year to this year was his 3-point shooting. And I think that is something he's continuing to work on. But yeah, he is someone who I think is very intriguing, from Gleague Ignite. All right, so the next player we'll top out is London Johnson. Now, London Johnson is a really interesting player given his situation with Boston and Maine. So the reason I said Boston is because, Thierry Darlan and London both are with teams that do have two-way contract players and assignment players. I think even a trickier thing is when you're on a team like the Boston, in the Boston Celtics program, they're already so stacked at the top, where then the guys maybe at the 14-15 spot, like Baylor Shireman, I guess, Jordan Walsh maybe from time to time. But then you also have like the two-way players like Drew Peterson, J.D. Davidson. And then that I think has been been tricky for London Johnson because he's probably not really been able to get as many minutes as he probably would have hoped. I think he played, I believe it was, a few days ago against the College Park Skyhawks. And a big part of that was really because he got to play, because JD was, with Boston, because I believe it was Sam Hauser who was out, and I think Drew Holiday, and Derek White. So some of their guys were kind of getting hurt. And so it's a trickle-down effect because if any of those top guys in Boston gets hurt, then, you have to bring up your guys from that 14, 15, 16, roster. You have to bring them up because, you don't know if there's ever going to be injuries. And so that then opens up minutes for guys like London Johnson. And so I'll just give an example here. Like 27 minutes London Johnson got to play. That's probably the most he's really got to play this season. Against the College Park Skyhawks, and he had 10 points, 2 rebounds, and 3 assists. So, it's I can't even imagine, because he got like 20 minutes last year with Gleague Ignite, and then now he's not really playing that many minutes at all. And then, he does get the opportunity to play like 2 games against the College Park Skyhawks, where he's at least averaging more than 20 minutes. So, it's part of really saying what they say is like stay ready group. And I think that is definitely true. And I think that is part of the G League is, you never know, when your opportunity is going to come. And so I think, I think it's just interesting to see this trickle down effect and to kind of see how he's dealing with it. I think hopefully if he can get more opportunities, that'll kind of help him as he continues to try to, grow his game and also, grow his stock in the draft for next year. And the next player we're going to talk about is Thierry Darlan. So Thierry has kind of had a similar situation as London Johnson, where there's guys like two-ways, and actually there's not really been any assignment players with the Rip City remix, but two-way players like Bryce McGowan's, Taze Moore, and Justin Manaya, they're all kind of taking up minutes, and it makes it harder for guys like Thierry Darlan to get into rotation for the remix. And so, it's also notable that, and like London Johnson, both of these guys are really young. I mean, London's 20, Thierry's 19. They're going against guys who have been playing 4 years of college basketball. I mean, they're 22, 23-year-olds that they're, having to try to get minutes against. So, it's tricky, and that's why it's, I think, a great thing that they're getting the opportunity now to go against these guys, because Thierry last year for Ignite was probably averaging about, I believe, 18 minutes a game, and so he was also, getting more minutes last year than he is now with the remix. But I think part of it is the process of them learning that, they're not going to always play in the NBA like every day, or they might have to be part of that stay ready group. And I think it's just good mentally for them to kind of learn these things at a young age. And so, when guys for Portland gets hurt, like Portland Trailblazers, like when their players get hurt, then guys like Minaya, Taze Moore, or McGowan's, they then move up. And then that opens up minutes for like guys like Thierry Darlan. So, I think Thierry has a lot of potential. I mean, he's a 6'6" point guard, shooting guard. He has a 7'1" wingspan, and he's a really intriguing player. I think if he is somebody who Portland does start to feel really high on, maybe towards the end of the season, he'd be an interesting player for him to take in the second round. I mean, we have seen guys in previous drafts where those players, like for example, Alan Smilagic out of the Golden State Warriors, he played for the Santa Cruz Warriors his first year, and then the Golden State Warriors drafted him in the second round and then brought him in and gave him, I believe, a roster spot. So it's always notable that you never know that there's guys that can be drafted, that they draft from their G League team that they want to keep in their program. So I think that is something that I think it's interesting, to see what continues to happen with him. And then to kind of close off this video, it's just going to be fun to see, especially with the showcase. I think that's going to be a huge opportunity for Thierry, London, and Dink, because they're going to get, plenty of opportunities to show to scouts why they deserve to play, and then, get drafted or be in the NBA. And so it's going to be big for those three guys coming up in the showcase. So, but yeah, I think that's it for this video. So if you watch this video to the end, thank you so much, and don't forget to subscribe, like, or dislike, because hey, you do you. So have a great evening, and peace.